The first time I realized he'd copied it, I heard my own variable names spoken out loud by someone who didn't know what they meant. It was in a glass conference room at 9:14 a.m., the air too cold, the coffee too burnt, and the projector humming like it was tired of being complicit. A contractor, new face, nervous smile, clicked through a slide and said, "So the shipment entropy score function will basically, optimize the vibe of the routing." I felt my stomach drop, not from fear, from recognition. That function didn't exist in any documentation. I'd never presented it. It lived in one place, our private repository, in code, with my fingerprints all over it. Across the table, Lucas Stroud, founder's son, newly appointed head of innovation, nodded like he'd built it himself and said, "Exactly. We're gonna synergize the bandwidth and monetize the algorithm." Monetize the algorithm. He said it the way people say, buy milk, as if the hard part was remembering the noun. I didn't react. I just looked at the contractor's laptop, at the timestamp in the corner of his screen, at the way his hands were shaking slightly when he scrolled. And I thought, oh, so we're doing crimes now. My name is Nora Keene. I'm 42. For 12 years, I was the principal software engineer at Halcyon Freight Technologies, a mid-market logistics platform headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Brick warehouses turned into innovation campuses, exposed ductwork, and executives who speak about moats while engineers quietly build them. I wasn't the kind of engineer who chased credit. I chased reliability. I built the parts that didn't get applause because they prevented disasters instead of creating demos. I designed the Atlas routing core, the engine that planned routes for 74,000 daily shipments across North America, optimizing cost and delivery windows down to a 6-minute average variance. I built the Nightwatch audit pipeline, a compliance logging system that produced immutable chain of custody records for regulated cargo, hazmat, pharmaceuticals, anything that made lawyers sweat. And I led the migration to a new microservices architecture, Project Cobalt, without dropping uptime below 99.95% for 19 straight months. Numbers matter. They're the only language some people can't charm their way around. Under my oversight, our critical incident count dropped from 23 per quarter to 7. Our onboarding time for enterprise clients went from 11 weeks to 6. And the proprietary optimization layer, my team's work, raised client retention from 88% to 94% over 2 years because our platform didn't just run. It delivered results that finance teams could see. The sacrifices were quieter. I hadn't taken a full weekend off in 2 years. I missed my mother's knee surgery follow-up because a carrier integration failed at 2:06 a.m. and the only person awake who understood the retry logic was me. I once took a Thanksgiving call from a bathroom because my extended family had started making jokes about Nora and her little computers, and I didn't have the energy to explain that those little computers were paying for everyone's turkey. Quiet, detail-oriented, observant. The kind of person who notices when your code shows up in someone else's mouth. Halcyon Freight was founded by Warren Stroud, a man who built a respectable company and then made the classic mistake of assuming his genetics would maintain it. He'd always spoken about legacy like it was a product feature. And then Lucas came back. Lucas Stroud was 33. He'd been finding himself for most of his 20s, which I later learned meant 2 short-lived startups, 1 podcast about disrupting old industries, and a failed attempt to sell NFT merchandise to truck drivers. He had the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in a way that stuck. He arrived wearing a slate gray blazer that was expensive but slightly too tight across the back, like it resented him. His watch was flashy enough to be seen from space. He smiled with his whole face, but his eyes never slowed down long enough to show actual curiosity. Warren introduced him at an all-hands in the Foundry Auditorium, the one with the stage lights and the giant neon sign that said "Build Different." "This is my son, Lucas," Warren said, proud as if he'd personally coded Lucas into existence. "He's here to lead innovation." Lucas took the mic and said, "We're going to modernize. We're going to AI the stack. We're going to turn our code into a revenue stream." AI the stack. Turn our code into a revenue stream. He spoke in verbs the way toddlers do, stringing them together and hoping meaning would form. People clapped politely. Raj Mehta, our staff engineer, 8 years deep in the infrastructure trenches, leaned toward me and whispered, "He says AI like it's a spell." Denise Park, legal and compliance director, sharp voice, sharper mind, sent me a text from 2 seats away. "Watch his hands. He has no idea what he's holding." She meant the company. She also meant the microphone. The first few weeks were harmless in the way a small leak is harmless right before it becomes structural. Lucas held innovation huddles in Juniper, a glass-walled room where the whiteboard never erased completely. He filled it with phrases like "move fast with safety" and "optimize the synergy layer" and "ownership mindset," then took photos of himself standing in front of it like the words were doing the work. He asked me to walk him through the code base on his 3rd day. "How deep?" I asked. He smiled. "Like, medium deep. Enough that I can speak the language." "Which language?" I asked. He laughed, loud and slightly delayed, like laughter was a habit. "Code language. You know." I nodded. "Understood." I didn't do the walkthrough. I sent him the architecture docs and the onboarding rubbooks. The ones I'd written so new engineers could become competent without my constant presence. He replied 15 minutes later. "Love this. Super thorough. Can we get, like, a shorter version? More high level? More story. Story." That's what people ask for when they want to skip the part where they learn. 2 months later, a contractor showed up. Not on our vendor list. Not in our procurement system. Just present. Lucas introduced him in a Slack channel called #InnovationTigerTeam because Lucas was the sort of man who named groups as if naming them summon results. "Everyone meet Trent," Lucas wrote. "He's gonna help us reverse engineer some core components so we can package them." Reverse engineer. Our own code. To package it. I stared at the message for a moment, then opened Denise's contact and typed, "Do we have an approved contract with a contractor named Trent?" She replied within 60 seconds, "No." "Why?" I sent her a screenshot. 3 dots appeared. Then, "Do not engage. I'm coming to your floor." 10 minutes later, Denise walked into my office, which was really just a glass box with a door that didn't quite close all the way. She shut it anyway. "What is he doing?" she asked. I kept my voice level. "He thinks code is a product you can scoop out with a spoon." Denise's jaw tightened. "If he's exporting proprietary code, if he's sharing it, there are legal implications." "I know," I said. "And you're sure this contractor doesn't have no procurement record, no legal review, no NDA on file that I can see?" Denise's eyes narrowed. "Okay, then we document." Quietly. I nodded. "Already started. Because here's the thing about engineers, we live in logs. We trust what's recorded. We notice patterns. We know how to prove things without raising our voices. That's why Lucas never saw it coming. The first real sign was in Git. At 1:37 a.m. on a Tuesday, I got an automated alert from our repository monitoring. Nightwatch wasn't just for cargo. It watched our code too. Someone had cloned the entire Atlas routing core into a new private repo named Atlas Lite. The user account was a generic service login created 2 days earlier, in OFSC. No one creates service accounts without a reason. No one clones proprietary code at 1:37 a.m. because they're excited about culture. I pulled the logs. IP addresses. Access tokens. Commit history. The pattern was sloppy. Trent was copying modules verbatim, stripping comments, renaming a few functions like he thought that made it new. He didn't understand that our style was a fingerprint. My fingerprint. My function names, my structure, my habit of writing safeguards that prevented the system from doing stupid things even when executives asked it to. And then I saw it, my variable name. Shipment entropy score. It was in Trent's repo. Identical. Same logic. Same edge case handling. Same small typo in a comment that I'd never bothered to fix because it was harmless and I'd been busy keeping the platform alive. I opened the contractor's presentation later that week because Lucas, in his generosity, had invited me to the innovation demo where they planned to show leadership their new product direction. And that's when I heard my own work spoken out loud by someone else. I didn't confront Trent. He was paid to do what he was told. I went to Denise. We met in Halcyon, ironically named, always used for conflict, near legal, where the carpet was too clean and the air always smelled faintly of lemon sanitizer. I slid my laptop across the table. Denise stared at the screen. The logs. The timestamps. The repo names. The access trail. How bad? She asked. It's everything, I said. Core routing logic. Optimization heuristics. Audit pipeline hooks. They're building a portable copy. Denise's voice went very quiet. To sell. To monetize the algorithm, I said, using Lucas's exact phrase, because sometimes repeating someone's words is the most surgical form of truth. Denise inhaled slowly. Do you have evidence that Lucas authorized this? I opened an email thread. Lucas had written, in his bright, careless way, Trent, pull the core modules, strip the Halcyon-specific stuff, and prep a version we can show strategic partners. Keep it quiet. Dad doesn't need the details. Dad doesn't need the details. Denise's eyes hardened. Okay, that was all she said. But I knew Denise. Okay, meant the knives were coming out. The legal ones. The next day, I was summoned to the Riverstone boardroom, the walnut table, the skyline view, the room where people liked to feel powerful because the chairs were expensive. Warren Stroud was there. Lucas was there. HR, Vivian Rhodes, 40, polite smile, empty eyes, was there. The air smelled like espresso and expensive cologne. Lucas's cologne always arrived before he did. Warren gestured to a chair. Nora, thanks for coming. I sat. Notebook. Pen. Quiet. Lucas leaned forward with a grin that didn't belong in a serious conversation. So, quick alignment, he said. We've noticed some friction. Some resistance to innovation. Warren frowned slightly. Lucas, be respectful. Lucas lifted his hands as if surrendering. I'm just saying, we're trying to streamline. And Nora keeps gatekeeping the code. Gatekeeping. There it was. The word people use when they want access without earning it. I looked at Lucas. Calmly. Which code? He blinked. The code. The core. The stuff that makes, everything work. Atlas routing core? I asked. Lucas smiled, relieved. Yes. That? Exactly. We're trying to synergize it. Warren turned to me. Nora, is there a problem? I could feel Vivian's eyes on me, waiting for emotion. Waiting for defensiveness. Waiting for the kind of reaction that makes HR folders slide easier. I didn't give them any. Yes, I said. There's a problem. Lucas's smile tightened. See? This is what I mean. Negative. Not future-focused. I opened my notebook, not because I needed it, but because the act was calming. Then I looked at Warren. Someone created an unauthorized repository, I said. They cloned proprietary code from our production repo at 1:37 a.m. last Tuesday. The service account was created 2 days prior. The code includes trade secret optimization logic and audit controls. That's intellectual property. It's also a compliance issue. Warren's face changed. He looked at Lucas. Lucas laughed. Okay, wow. That's dramatic. We're not stealing. It's our company. Vivian spoke softly, careful. Nora, are you accusing leadership of misconduct? I held her gaze. I'm stating facts. Lucas leaned back, crossing his arms. His watch caught the light like a warning. Nora, you're making this adversarial. Trent is helping us build an innovation product. You should be grateful you're included. Included. As if theft becomes collaboration if you invite the original owner to watch. Warren's voice sharpened. Who is Trent? Lucas waved a hand. A contractor. Don't worry about it. Warren looked at Vivian. Do we have a contract? Vivian's smile faltered. I don't believe so. Lucas's posture stiffened. Dad, come on. This is why companies move slow. Paperwork. Denise Park walked in at that moment. She didn't knock. She didn't smile. She placed a folder on the table in front of Warren. We have evidence of unauthorized code exfiltration, she said, voice steady. We also have a written directive from Lucas to conceal details from you. Lucas's face went pale for half a second, then flushed hot. Denise, this is internal. You're overreacting. Denise looked at him like he was a glitch. I'm reacting appropriately. Lucas turned to me, eyes narrowing. You set me up. No, I said. You documented yourself. Warren opened the folder. Read. His jaw tightened. Lucas tried to recover, switching to the only tool he had, offense. This is ridiculous, he snapped. Nora's code isn't even hers. It's company code. If anything, she stole it from me. I've been driving the innovation direction. She's been hoarding it. I watched him say it, and I understood something with cold clarity. He wasn't just careless. He was dangerous. Because he believed his title made reality negotiable. Warren's voice dropped. Lucas, stop. Lucas didn't. He leaned forward and said, louder, if Nora wants to play legal games, fine. We'll sue. She's been undermining me. She's been, honestly, sabotaging. This whole thing is her trying to protect her job. I turned my pen between my fingers once. Slow. Calm. Then I looked at Warren. If my story resonates with you, make sure to like and subscribe. I share workplace strategy and corporate analysis every week that might just change how you navigate your career, I said, internally, because this was the exact moment where the audience would need the pause, the inhale before impact. Out loud, I said something simpler. Understood, I told Lucas. And then I slid my laptop across the table to Warren, open to the Git blame view, the commit hashes glowing like evidence under fluorescent light. Would you like the timestamps? I asked Warren. Or the IP addresses first? What Lucas didn't know, what Warren didn't know, what Vivian from HR certainly didn't know, was that I'd been preparing for this exact moment for 7 months. Not because I'm paranoid, because I'm observant. And when you watch someone arrive at a company speaking in buzzwords they don't understand, treating proprietary systems like open source playgrounds, you don't hope for the best. You document for the worst. It started on February 9th, the day Lucas held his first innovation huddle and asked if we could open source the secret sauce to build community momentum. That sentence, that exact combination of words, told me everything I needed to know about his relationship with intellectual property law. Which is to say, he didn't have one. So I did 3 things. First, I enabled advanced audit logging on every repository Lucas had access to, not the default logs. The kind that capture every clone, every branch, every file view, every failed authentication attempt. I routed them to a separate secure bucket that only I controlled, outside the standard corporate infrastructure. I called it the Integrity Archive because naming things properly makes them feel less like paranoia and more like professionalism. Second, I reviewed our IP assignment agreements. Every engineer at Halcyon signed one on day 1, standard boilerplate that said anything you create using company resources belongs to the company. But I wanted to know if Lucas had signed one. Turns out he hadn't. Warren had brought him on as an executive, and executives sometimes get different paperwork. Sometimes they get none at all. I documented that gap in a memo to Denise on March 3rd. She replied, noted. Keeping this. Third, I implemented something I called the canary system. It wasn't sophisticated. It was just smart. I embedded unique, identifiable markers into critical sections of the codebase, tiny comments, unusual variable names, specific formatting quirks that served no functional purpose, but were distinctly mine. Shipment entropy score was 1. Validation pulse check was another. Ghost retry handler was a third. If anyone copied the code, they'd copy the canaries. And canaries don't lie. I didn't do this because I wanted to catch Lucas. I did it because I'd watched enough competent people get burned by incompetent leaders who confused access with ownership. And I wasn't interested in being another cautionary tale told in hushed voices over conference room coffee. The night of that boardroom meeting, the one where Lucas accused me of theft in front of his father, I went home, poured a glass of wine I didn't drink, and opened my laptop. The Integrity Archive had everything. Timestamps showing when a NOVSC was created. IP addresses showing Trent's access points. Commit histories showing verbatim copies of my code, canaries included, pushed to a private repo that Lucas controlled. Email threads where Lucas instructed Trent to strip Halcyon branding and package for external demo. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Because this was the part people don't tell you about workplace revenge. It's not satisfying in the moment. It's just necessary. I exported everything into a single encrypted file, sent it to Denise with the subject line "full documentation," and went to bed. The next morning, Warren called me. Not Lucas. Warren. His voice was quiet, strained, like he'd aged a decade overnight. "Nora," he said. "I need to understand what happened." "I sent Denise the logs," I said. "I know. I read them." He paused. "All of them." I waited. "Lucas said you're trying to sabotage him." "Lucas is wrong," I said. Warren exhaled slowly. "He's my son." "I know," I said. And I did. That was the whole problem. "But he's also—" Warren trailed off, and I could hear him struggling with a sentence he didn't want to finish. "I finished it for him." Reckless. "Yes," Warren said, and the word sounded like it cost him something. "I'm not trying to hurt him," I said, and I meant it. "But I'm not going to let him hurt the company. Or me." Warren was quiet for a long moment. Then understood. He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, wondering if understood meant the same thing when a father said it about his son. 2 days later, the first crack appeared. I was working from home, still employed, technically, but the air at the office had turned strange and thin, the way it does when everyone knows something is coming, but no one knows what. Raj called me at 10:47 a.m. "Nora," he said, voice tight. "Atlas is down." I felt my stomach drop, not from panic. From recognition. "Down how?" I asked. "Routing engine isn't generating plans. It's just sitting there, spinning. The logs say it's waiting for a dependency that doesn't exist." I opened my laptop. VPN. Terminal. Logs. There it was. Someone, Lucas, probably, or Trent under Lucas's direction, had tried to optimize the routing engine by removing what they thought was redundant code. It wasn't redundant. It was a failsafe I'd built to prevent the system from initializing without proper configuration validation. They'd deleted the validation layer. Now the engine was waiting for a config file that would never arrive, because the thing that generated that file no longer existed. "How long has it been down?" I asked. 40 minutes, Raj said. "Shipments are piling up. Dispatch is freaking out. We've got 1,400 loads in queue with no routing assignments. 1,400 loads. At an average margin of $140 per load, that was $196,000 in revenue sitting idle. Every hour. Who's trying to fix it?" I asked. "Lucas," Raj said, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "He keeps saying we need to reboot the algorithm." Reboot the algorithm. Like it was a modem. "Can you fix it?" Raj asked. I could. I knew exactly what they'd broken and exactly how to restore it. It would take me 20 minutes. "Yes," I said. "Will you?" Raj asked, and the question hung there, heavy and honest. I thought about Lucas in that boardroom, accusing me of theft. I thought about Warren's tired voice saying he's my son. I thought about 12 years of weekends and missed surgeries and cold coffee at 2 a.m. while I kept the system alive. "No," I said. Raj was quiet for a moment. Then, "Okay. Tell Lucas the documentation is in Confluence," I said. "Under Atlas Routing Core/Architecture/Failsafe Protocols." "He won't read it," Raj said. "I know," I said. Raj laughed, short and sharp. "You're terrifying." "I'm thorough," I said. Lucas called me at 11:52 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was bright, strained, trying to sound casual. "Hey Nora, quick question. Atlas is being weird. I think maybe something got misconfigured. Anyway, if you could just, hop on and do your magic, that'd be awesome. Thanks. Your magic." As if 12 years of architecture and failsafe design was a party trick. I didn't call back. I made tea. I sat on my porch. The sun was out. The birds were loud. The world continued. Lucas called again at 1:34 p.m. I didn't answer. At 3:17 p.m., Denise texted me, "Atlas still down. Lucas is in Warren's office. It's not going well." I replied, "How not well?" "Yelling," she wrote. "Actual yelling. Warren just said, 'You told me you understood the systems.'" I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed, "Does he want me to fix it?" Denise replied immediately, yes. But he hasn't asked you. He's too proud. Then it stays broken, I said. By the end of the week, the damage had compounded in that slow, inevitable way that technical debt always does when you let incompetence drive. Atlas had been down for a total of 11 hours across 3 days. Lucas and Trent had attempted 4 separate fixes, each one making it worse. At one point they'd tried to restore from a backup, but they'd restored the wrong version, one from 6 months ago, before a critical client integration, and suddenly Redline Logistics, a $3.2 million annual contract, was getting routing plans that referenced depot locations we didn't use anymore. Redline's COO sent an email to Warren that was CC'd to half the executive team. We have dispatched drivers to 3 incorrect facilities in 48 hours. This is unacceptable. If Atlas is not stable by Monday, we will begin evaluating alternative platforms. $3.2 million. That was the number that made boards pay attention. Raj forwarded me the email with no comment. He didn't need one. Lucas called me at 7:04 p.m. on Friday. His voice had lost the brightness. Now it was frayed, urgent, stripped of pretense. Nora, please. I need your help. I was at home making dinner. Pasta. Garlic. Olive oil. Simple things that didn't require optimization. With what? I asked. Atlas. It's still broken. We can't figure it out. Did you read the documentation? I asked. Yes. I mean, I tried. It's really technical. It's a technical system, I said. He exhaled sharply, frustration bleeding through. Nora, come on. Don't do this. Do what? I asked. This. The withholding. The punishing. I get it, okay? You're mad. But this is bigger than us. This is the company. I turned off the stove. Plated the pasta. Sat down. Lucas, I said, voice calm and even, you accused me of stealing code I wrote. You hired a contractor without legal review to copy proprietary systems. You tried to sell my work to competitors. And when you got caught, you threatened to sue me. I was just. And now you want me to fix the system you broke, I continued, for free, out of loyalty to a company that let you humiliate. Months ago, she specialized in IP litigation and had a reputation for being polite, thorough, and absolutely merciless. I'd paid her for a consultation in June, right after Lucas's first innovation huddle, because I'd learned a long time ago that the best time to prepare for a fight is before anyone knows there's going to be one. Margaret called me that afternoon. I've reviewed the complaint, she said. It's nonsense. Provably false nonsense. We'll file a motion to dismiss and a counterclaim. For what? I asked. Defamation. Abuse of process. And we'll subpoena his communications with Trent. If he's been directing code theft, that's tortious interference at minimum. How long? I asked. 3 months to discovery. Maybe 4. I thought about that. 3 months of this hanging over me. 3 months of Lucas telling people I was a thief. Do it, I said. Margaret paused. Nora, I have to ask. Do you want to settle? No, I said. Even if they offer full vindication and a payout? No, I said. I want the truth on record. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, let's go to war. The lawsuit did something Lucas hadn't anticipated. It made everything public. Halcyon's board, previously willing to let Warren handle internal family matters, suddenly had a legal liability on their hands. They couldn't ignore a lawsuit. They had to investigate. And when they investigated, they found the integrity archive. Denise walked them through it in a closed session. Every log, every timestamp, every email where Lucas instructed Trent to copy, strip, and package my code. Raj told me later that one board member, Catherine Lim, former CTO of a supply chain company, the only person in that room who actually understood code, had gone pale. This isn't innovation, Catherine had said, voice cold. This is theft. Warren tried to defend Lucas. He didn't understand the implications. He's 33 years old, Catherine interrupted. And he's head of innovation. If he doesn't understand IP law, he shouldn't have the title. The board requested Lucas's resignation the next day. He refused. So they fired him. Warren abstained from the vote. Lucas called me that night. 11:43 p.m. I almost didn't answer, but I did. His voice was raw, broken, nothing like the confident man who'd stood on a stage and talked about the stack. "You destroyed me," he said. I sat in my dark living room, phone pressed to my ear, and felt something settle in my chest that wasn't quite satisfaction. It was completion. "No," I said quietly. "You documented yourself." He hung up. Before I tell you what happened next, you might be wondering if I felt guilty. If I lay awake thinking about Lucas's career, his relationship with his father, the weight of what I'd set in motion. That's exactly what I'll unpack in the next part of the story, so make sure you're subscribed. Because the truth is more complicated than revenge, and the ending is better than you think. 3 weeks in, the lawsuit stopped being Lucas's attempt to scare me and started becoming what it always should have been: evidence. Not because anyone suddenly grew a spine. Because paper has a way of forcing people to look at what they've been pretending not to see. Halcyon was trying to keep the lights on while simultaneously pretending this was a misunderstanding between stakeholders. That was the phrase Vivian used in an internal memo. Misunderstanding. Like you accidentally reverse engineer a proprietary routing engine the way you accidentally buy the wrong oat milk. Monday morning, 8:06 a.m., the first call came from customer success. It wasn't even one of the dramatic clients. It was a mid-tier account, Ridgeline Haulers, paying us $38,000 a month. Small enough that executives normally only remembered them when renewal season hit. "Hi, Nora," the account manager, Tessa, said. Her voice was tight, polite, too carefully controlled. "Do you have a minute?" "I have a minute," I said. "We got a question from Ridgeline," she continued. "They're asking why they saw a demo of a new Halcyon-aligned optimization product from a third-party consulting firm, using screenshots that look exactly like our Atlas UI. I stared at my kitchen wall for a beat. Beige paint. A small crack near the ceiling I'd been meaning to patch for months. Life's quiet ways of reminding you there are real problems and then there are corporate ones. "What firm?" I asked. "Stroud Ventures," she said, and I could hear the discomfort in her mouth around those words. Of course. Lucas didn't just copy our code. He'd apparently started marketing it. "Tell Ridgeline we're investigating," I said. "And forward the screenshots to legal." "Legal is kind of on fire," Tessa whispered. "I know," I said. "Forward them anyway." At 10:12 a.m., Atlas misrouted a high-value medical shipment, temperature-controlled pharmaceuticals, because Trent had merged a performance patch into production that bypassed Nightwatch's audit hooks. It didn't just break logging. It broke chain of custody integrity. The shipment didn't disappear. Nobody died. But the client, North Star Med Logistics, filed a compliance incident report within an hour. Halcyon's compliance rating with that client, an internal score they used to decide whether to renew, dropped from 92 to 61 in one afternoon. The CFO sent a company-wide email at 2:03 p.m. trying to reassure everyone that the platform remains robust. At 2:19 p.m., our payment processor froze settlement on $640,000 in weekly carrier payouts pending verification of audit integrity. Robust. Tuesday, 9:48 a.m., the Tennessee Attorney General's office sent a letter to Halcyon's registered agent. Not because they cared about my employment dispute. Because Lucas, in his genius, had used Halcyon customer data anonymized badly, like a toddler hiding a cookie behind their back, to demonstrate market potential in his pitch deck. A client recognized their own shipment patterns and filed a complaint. So now it wasn't just IP theft. It was data misuse. Denise called me from her office. I could hear the buzz of fluorescent lights and the soft, frantic clatter of printers in the background. "Nora," she said, voice low. "We have a problem." "We have several," I said. "We have an AG letter," she said. "And North Star is threatening to terminate unless we provide a full incident report within 72 hours. Do you want the logs?" I asked. Denise paused. "We want you in the building." I leaned back in my chair. My tea had gone cold. Again. "I'm not coming in without terms," I said. "I know," she said, and her voice softened, just slightly. "I didn't ask because I thought you'd say yes. I asked because it's true." That was Denise. always honest when it mattered. At 6:27 p.m. that night, Lucas left me a voicemail. No warmth this time. No alignment. Just brittle anger. "Nora, listen," he snapped, words running together. "We're dealing with real damages here. You've interfered with business operations, you've been feeding legal nonsense, and you're going to be personally liable." Do you understand that? Personally liable. My attorneys can freeze your assets. We can get an injunction. We can make sure you never work in logistics again. He took a breath that sounded like a gulp. "And if you've got any sense, you'll get on a call tonight and fix this mess before the board decides you're the easiest scapegoat." I replayed that voicemail twice. Not because it scared me, because it was useful. Lucas always gave himself away when he got emotional. He couldn't help it. He'd talk too much, threaten too broadly, say the quiet part like it was a strategy. I forwarded the voicemail to Margaret C. with one line, "Please add to file." Margaret replied 6 minutes later, already drafting a response. Also, injunction threats are cute. Wednesday morning, 7:41 a.m., I got an email from Vivian in HR. Subject: urgent. Request to cooperate. Body: Nora, in light of ongoing disruptions, Halcyon requests your immediate cooperation to ensure business continuity. Your refusal may be considered willful interference. Please confirm availability for a call today. I read it. I blinked slowly. I felt the faintest tug of something that might have been amusement if I had more energy. Willful interference. Because I wasn't stopping them from fixing the system. I was just not volunteering to do it for free while being sued for $4.7 million. I replied with 2 words: decline. Counsel. Denise texted 5 minutes later. Vivian's terrified. Warren's furious. Lucas is spiraling. Define spiraling, I typed. Denise replied, "He's blaming Trent. Trent's blaming Raj. Raj is quietly updating his resume." That part made sense. Raj didn't do chaos for long. At 4:18 p.m., Raj called me. "Nora," he said, "I have to ask. Did you ever leave yourself a backdoor?" I exhaled through my nose. "No, I didn't think so," he said quickly. People are saying things. Let them, I said. Raj hesitated. They're scared. They want a villain. And Lucas is loud. I know, I said. I saved every log, every email, every commit hash. Loud doesn't win against timestamps. Raj was quiet. Then, softer, "I'm sorry." "Me too," I said, and I meant it in the only way that mattered. Sorry that competence had to be treated like a threat. By the end of that 3rd week, Halcyon had tallied measurable damage that even Warren couldn't dismiss with paternal optimism. $640,000 in frozen payouts. $210,000 in service credits issued to 3 clients for SLA breaches. $1,900,000 in churn risk flagged by sales for accounts likely to exit within 30 days. And a compliance score collapse with Northstar that turned a $5.6 million annual contract into a question mark. Total direct impact documented by finance, $1,071,000. Projected loss exposure, $7,500,000. Those numbers circulated internally like a bad smell. People stopped making eye contact in hallways. Engineers started saving copies of runbooks. Customer success started recording calls. You could feel Halcyon's collective faith in leadership thinning by the hour. Because everyone had finally realized this wasn't a bad quarter. It was a leadership failure wearing a lawsuit like a costume. By week 5, the board stopped letting Warren handle it. They scheduled an emergency meeting in Riverstone. Not a touch base. Not a working session. An emergency board meeting, which is corporate for, we're done pretending. Denise invited me. Not in person. She invited me to listen via a secure line. You don't have to say anything, she said. But I think you'll want to hear this. I did. The board chair was Catherine Lim, the former CTO. The only person in that room who'd read code without calling it the tech stuff. Her voice came through the speaker clean and cold. We have 3 parallel crises, she said. 1. Product stability is compromised. 2. We have a credible allegation of trade secret theft and data misuse linked to an executive. 3. The executive in question initiated litigation against our principal engineer, creating reputational and legal exposure. Someone, Warren, cleared his throat. Lucas made mistakes, but Catherine cut him off gently, which somehow felt sharper. Warren, I need numbers, not feelings. The CFO spoke. Direct cash impact to date is $2,386,000. I sat up. That was higher than I expected. He continued, that includes service credits, legal fees, vendor remediation, and accelerated security audits. Projected revenue at risk is $11,900,000 if Northstar and Ridgeline exit. There was a silence. A long one. The kind that happens when even wealthy people feel the weight of consequences. Then Catherine said, and the lawsuit? Halcyon's outside counsel responded. We've reviewed the complaint. It's weak. Discovery will be damaging. Specifically, any subpoenaed communications between Lucas and the contractor will likely expose unauthorized export of proprietary code. A board member asked, can we stop it? Counsel said, not without Lucas withdrawing. Warren said he won't. Catherine's voice didn't change. Then we will. There was a moment of shuffling. Papers. Someone coughing. And then, unexpectedly, Lucas spoke. Apparently, he'd been sitting in the corner like a sulking heir, waiting for his turn. This is insane, he said, voice high with panic disguised as certainty. You're all acting like Nora's some kind of hero. She's been undermining me since day one. She's jealous. She's territorial. We were building something bigger, and she couldn't handle it. Catherine's voice stayed calm. Lucas, we have your email telling a contractor to strip Halcyon identifiers and package core modules for external partners. Lucas stammered. That's not theft. That's innovation. It's theft, Catherine said, flatly. Lucas's voice cracked. Fine. Then pay her. Give her whatever she wants. Make her sign an NDA and fix this. My attorneys can make this go away. There it was. Lucas didn't want to win. He wanted to make consequences disappear. Catherine asked, Nora, are you on the line? Denise texted me, if you want to speak now. I looked down at my hands. Steady. Calm. No shaking. Just clarity. I pressed unmute. Yes, I said. The room went quiet. Catherine spoke carefully. Nora, what would it take for you to re-engage with Halcyon in a formal capacity and stabilize the platform? Lucas immediately jumped in, too fast. We'll give you a raise. Title. Whatever. Just fix it. I let the silence sit for a beat, because sometimes silence is the only thing that cuts through noise. My terms are simple, I said. Lucas made a sharp inhale, like he was bracing for extortion. 1, I continued. Lucas withdraws the lawsuit within 24 hours. Publicly. In writing. Lucas sputtered. No. Catherine cut him off. Continue, Nora. 2, I said, Halcyon issues a corrective statement acknowledging I did not misappropriate trade secrets and that the code in question was authored under my supervision. 3, I said, I return as Chief Technology Officer, not Principal Engineer. CTO. Lucas laughed once, disbelieving and ugly. CTO? That's insane. I didn't respond to him. I kept my voice level. 4, I said, I have authority over repository access, vendor onboarding, and incident response procedures. No executive exceptions. 5, I said, Lucas is removed from any role with access to engineering systems and customer data. Permanently. There was a long silence. Then Catherine said, what about compensation? $395,000 base, I said. 30% bonus. 1.2% equity with standard vesting, and a $150,000 signing bonus. I heard someone exhale sharply, not because it was outrageous, because it was precise. Lucas's voice suddenly went thin and desperate. You can't do this. You're stealing my company. I spoke softly. It's not yours. It's a corporation. That was the moment, I think, when Warren finally understood what legacy actually means. Not blood. Not titles. Systems. People. Trust. Warren's voice came through, rough and tired. Lucas, enough. Lucas snapped, Dad. No, Warren said, and the word landed like a door closing. This ends now. By 11:58 p.m. that night, Lucas sent me a text from a number I didn't have saved. Please, you're ruining my life. I stared at it for a moment. Then I forwarded it to Margaret too. I didn't reply, because if Lucas wanted mercy, he could start with accountability. The following Monday, the collapse wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. At 8:30 a.m., Halcyon filed a notice in court. Lucas Stroud's complaint was withdrawn with prejudice, meaning he couldn't refile it, meaning it was done. At 9:12 a.m., Halcyon issued a public statement to clients. Recent allegations regarding misappropriation by Nora Keene were unfounded. Halcyon confirms no wrongdoing by Ms. Keene. Halcyon is conducting an internal investigation into unauthorized access and distribution of proprietary materials. At 10:05 a.m., Catherine called me. Your CTO, she said. No flourish. No congratulatory tone. Just reality. At 10:47 a.m., Denise walked Lucas out of the building with legal. Not security. Not a spectacle. Just Denise, holding a folder, eyes forward, voice quiet. Raj texted me from inside the office. He's trying to argue with the badge reader. Of course he was. Lucas called me at 11:23 a.m. I answered because I prefer to see the last move clearly. His voice was wrecked. The arrogance had drained out of it like air from a punctured tire. Nora, he said, tell them to stop. Please. I'll do anything. I'll sign anything. Just don't let them do this. Lucas, I said, calm, you did this. No, he choked out. You planned this. I planned documentation, I said. You planned denial. He started breathing fast. I could hear it, loud in the receiver, like he'd forgotten how lungs work. I'm supposed to be the future, he said, voice cracking. They can't, my dad can't. He can, I said. And then, because I'm not cruel and I wasn't interested in hearing him unravel further, I ended the call. That afternoon, the board authorized a full forensic audit of engineering access and data exports. They brought in an outside firm. They pulled every log, every token, every off-hours clone, every external sync. Within 48 hours, they found it. Trent had pushed a partial copy of Atlas routing logic to a private Git host and shared it with 2 email addresses at a competitor, Vantage Fleet Solutions. The emails referenced Stroud sample and pricing if full module delivered. The number attached to the thread was $780,000. Not for the company. For Lucas. A personal payout disguised as consulting revenue. So it wasn't just incompetence. It was fraud. Halcyon's counsel referred the matter to federal authorities because trade secret theft at that scale doesn't stay internal when there are cross-company communications and money trails. The investigation didn't make headlines right away, but it didn't need to. It made board minutes. It made investor calls. It made Warren's face go gray. Halcyon lost 2 clients anyway. Ridgeline walked, taking $456,000 in annual revenue. Northstar stayed, but only after I signed off on a corrective action plan, a new audit integrity guarantee, and a $120,000 service credit. Total measurable impact by the time I was formally seated as CTO, $3,940,000 in direct cash damage and credits, and $12,356,000 in churn risk flagged by sales. And that was with me not touching the keyboard until my terms were met. Raj came into my new office, an actual office, with a door that closed on my first day. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to breathe again. You're really back, he said. I'm really back, I replied. He nodded once, eyes bright with something that looked like relief and exhaustion at the same time. Good, he said. Because I was one more innovation huddle away from committing a felony. I almost smiled. Which felony? Arson, he said, deadpan. Denise followed him in 10 minutes later with a stack of folders and the calm expression of someone who'd just cleaned up a chemical spill. We're implementing vendor controls, she said. No contractors without procurement. No exceptions. Also, Warren wants to speak to you. I said, does he want to apologize? Denise's mouth twitched. He wants to understand. Close enough, I said. Warren came in that evening after most people had left. No entourage. No stage lights. Just a tired man in a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, like he'd finally remembered work was work. He stood across from my desk for a long moment without speaking. "I failed you," he said finally. I watched him. The sincerity seemed real. The shame seemed real. "It was also late." "Yes," I said. He swallowed. "I thought bringing Lucas in would secure the company. The legacy." "The company isn't your legacy," I said. "It's a responsibility." Warren nodded slowly, as if the sentence was heavy and he needed both hands to hold it. "I'm stepping back," he said. "Catherine asked me to." I agreed. "Good," I said. He looked at me, eyes tired. "Why did you stay? You could have left. You could have watched it burn." I considered the question honestly. "Because I built it," I said. "And I don't like watching incompetent people break things they don't understand." Warren nodded again. "Fair." He hesitated. "Will you fix it?" "I will," I said. "But not the way you think." And I did. Over the next 6 months, I rebuilt Halcyon's engineering governance like it was a safety system. Because it was. I implemented signed commits across all repos. Mandatory code review for any merge to production branches. 0 shared service accounts. Hardware keys for privileged access. A locked-down vendor onboarding process with procurement, legal, and security sign-off. We restructured incident response so no one could override Nightwatch logging. We established a formal, trade secret boundary policy, classifying modules, controlling exports, watermarking sensitive code. And we made one cultural change that mattered. We stopped treating engineers like replaceable parts. Not with slogans. With boundaries. With respect. Raj was promoted to Director of Platform Engineering with a $240,000 salary and a team he could actually staff. Denise became VP of Risk and Compliance. Vivian transferred out of HR 2 months later, voluntarily, I was told, because she didn't enjoy a world where willful interference, emails got quoted back to her in legal memos. As for Lucas, I didn't track him closely. But I heard enough. He tried to spin it online as a misunderstanding and a visionary project that threatened entrenched interests. He took a break for mental health. He started posting about entrepreneurship under pressure. Then, quietly, those posts stopped. Because lawsuits and investigations have a way of limiting your content calendar. A year later, my life looked different in the smallest, most satisfying ways. I took weekends off. Entire weekends. I saw my mother for dinner without my phone on the table. I slept through the night. I hired enough people that single point of failure stopped being a flattering compliment and started being what it should have always been, unacceptable. My compensation as CTO was exactly what we agreed, $395,000 base, 30% bonus target, 1.2% equity. The signing bonus hit my account on the exact date in the contract. I noticed. I always notice. Halcyon's uptime stabilized at 99.97%. Client retention climbed to 96%, higher than it had ever been, because stability is a product feature. We signed a new enterprise client worth $8.2 million annually, partly because their procurement team asked detailed questions about audit integrity and access controls, and for once, we had answers that didn't require improvisation. The board changed, too. Catherine brought in 2 new independent directors, one with a security background, one with deep logistics operations experience. Nepotism didn't disappear. It never does. But it stopped being the organizing principle. 3 years later, if you're wondering whether I felt satisfied, the answer is complicated. I didn't enjoy watching a family fall apart. I didn't enjoy watching a company bleed money. I didn't enjoy being threatened, sued, and used as a scapegoat by someone who thought inheritance was expertise. What I did enjoy quietly, privately, was watching the truth become unavoidable. Because that's what documentation does. It takes the story people tell about you and replaces it with receipts. If you've ever felt like you were holding up an entire operation while someone with a better last name took credit, I hope this shows that standing your ground works. I share workplace strategies and corporate analysis every week that help you navigate professional betrayal. Like and subscribe if you found value here. Remember, the people who try to steal your work aren't just disrespecting you, they're confessing they can't create what you can, and paper will always outlast ego.